Book Introduction #1064. Here's an excerpt from the book. Book title: Culture Makes Genes Dance. Author Jang Suchul. Publication date May 15, 2025. 문화는 유전자를 춤추게 한다. 장수철. 출판일 2025년 5월 15일. SangSang, Builder's One-Line Summary. Let's Understand Culture and Genes. Book Introduction. Why are we so enthusiastic about BTS, addicted to spicy flavors and eager to gossip? Culture Makes Genes Dance is a delightful popular science book that delves into the macro history of evolution and the nature of humanity through the very familiar and contemporary cultural phenomenon of K-culture. Koreans watching the global wave of Hallyu often feel a sense of pride, yet also a bit bewildered. Do our people have some unique cultural DNA that makes us exceptionally gifted in song and dance? This book starts from such a question, which most Koreans have probably asked themselves, and expands its scope to include Korean food, K-dramas, and more. It then quickly traces, like a K-pop beat, the evolutionary process that led humanity to become the dominant species among countless others. The gene culture coevolution theory, introduced in the book, is a field that vividly explains how genes and culture attract and repel each other, how cultural elements of human life have guided the selection of genes, and conversely, how changes in genes have re-evolved culture. It stands at the forefront of modern evolutionary theory, starting with Charles Darwin. While there had been no standalone book by a Korean author on this topic, a professor who teaches biology at Yonsei University has released the first popular interpretive book in Korea. The book is underpinned by a comprehensive synthesis of insights and wisdom from various disciplines, including animal ecology, evolutionary biology, history, anthropology, sociology, psychology, and cultural studies. About the author. Author Jang Suchul. Botanist. He received his Ph.D. in botany from Yonsei University and conducted research on plant growth and development at the University of Michigan in the United States. Since 2003, he has been a professor at Yonsei University's University College, combining botanical research with liberal arts education. He has served as the director of the Yonsei University RC Education Center, director of the Yonsei University Institute of Liberal Arts Education, and vice president of the Korean Society for Liberal Arts Education, showing great interest in helping all students, regardless of their major, access science as a required liberal art. He runs various courses that offer a broad and deep world of biology, such as the world of life science and life and sex evolution and humanities and humans and animals plants. Outside of reading, writing, and lecturing, he mostly enjoys listening to BTS and the Beatles and observing plants. He co-translated Campbell Biology, Concepts and Connections, and What is Life, and authored Core Biology, a very special biology classes, and a very clear evolution class. Key takeaways from the book. Why are we so enthusiastic about BTS, addicted to spicy flavors and eager to gossip? An exciting science book that traces the fascinating process of how genes and culture have attracted and repelled each other, dancing a unique dance called coevolution. It vividly and persuasively explains how cultural elements that make up human life, from dance, food, family systems, diseases and treatments, agriculture, to identity, have guided the selection of genes, and conversely, how changes in genes have re-evolved culture. Through the gene culture coevolution theory, which is at the forefront of modern evolutionary theory, the book begins to unravel the evolutionary secrets underpinning contemporary socio-cultural phenomena like K-pop, Korean food, and K-dramas, offering profound insights into the present and future of human society. Are we a people inherently gifted with genes for song and dance? The journey to find the biological and evolutionary meaning hidden in K-pop. It has become a common sight for the world, not just Korea, to buzz whenever K-pop groups like Blackpink, BTS, or IVE release an album or a new song. Living in the era of Hallyu or K-culture, where Korea creates and the world enjoys songs and dances, dramas and films, Korean food, beauty, and literary works, Koreans admittedly feel proud yet also perplexed. When did we become so successful? Do our people have some unique cultural DNA? This unusual science book, written by Professor Jang Suchul, who teaches biology at Yonsei University, starts from such a question, which most Koreans have probably asked themselves. Culture Makes Genie's Dance is a delightful book that delves into the macro history of evolution and the nature of humanity through the very familiar and contemporary cultural phenomenon of K-culture. The author explains that if a certain cultural art form is preferred in almost all cultures, there exists a biological reason for it, and this is reflected at the genetic level. Why do we enjoy dancing so much? What is the basis for it? One might wonder why there needs to be such a biological analysis for simply enjoying singing and dancing. Humanity has enjoyed dancing in almost all cultures since ancient times. If a certain art form is enjoyed only in a specific region, it can be considered a characteristic of that culture, but it is reasonable to assume that there is a biological reason for cultural arts commonly preferred in most cultures. Biological simply means that it helps a species survive and thrive. Our enjoyment of singing and dancing is no different. The pleasure of dance is difficult to understand without considering humanity's imitative instinct. Imitation is a universal characteristic of humanity, etched into our genes. For our human ancestors to overcome harsh natural environments and survive, social learning of collective knowledge and experience was essential. Before education, language, or writing were developed, humanity could learn this through imitation. Humans with imitation genes survived and passed their genes to their offspring, while those without imitation genes failed to survive or leave descendants. Ultimately, we are the descendants of habitual imitators with imitation genes, and dance is a cultural art enjoyed everywhere in the world precisely because of this genetically ingrained imitative instinct. It has played roles in social learning, the transmission of collective wisdom, and the formation of social belonging. Furthermore, the point choreography in K-pop dances, well designed to match the lyrics, stimulates the imitative instinct, and the synchronized group choreography performed by idols provides intense feelings of solidarity and social cohesion beyond mere excitement to both audiences and those who follow the dance. Nowadays, it's common to see videos on the internet of young people gathering in squares around the world in Paris, New York, Jakarta, Sao Paulo performing cover dances of K-pop groups, including BTS. When many people dance the same dance simultaneously, adrenaline and oxytocin are secreted, causing people to feel excitement and heightened emotions, much like when our ancient ancestors engaged in collective hunting or life or death battles with other tribes. This type of behavior, common in hunter-gatherer societies, is called synchronous collective action. In modern terms, it's like wearing your favorite team's jersey and screaming at the top of your lungs while watching a sports game in a stadium. Culture Makes Genie's Dance thus examines the process by which human sociability and cooperation evolved, tracing how selfish genes could even lead to altruistic behavior. It then analyzes how these major shifts in evolutionary history are well integrated into today's K-culture, touching upon humanity's latent nostalgia. For example, for humanity to develop altruism and humanitarianism as we know it today, it had to go through 3 stages over hundreds of thousands of years. 1. Kin selection altruism among relatives. 2. Reciprocal altruism, remembering those who give and receive help. And 3. Indirect reciprocity, which applies across a large society beyond the tribal level. In this process, a crucial element for early hominins to jump from stage 2 to stage 3 was the world of gossip, where social reputation work took place. By criticizing lazy hunting companions and praising those who contributed to the group, early hominins spent over 2 hours a day, and modern humans over 5 hours a day, gossiping, page 123. This tradition of gossip and its socio-cultural function later developed into the archetype of all stories. Ancient heroic narratives, religions, and myths that enabled great human cooperation. And even modern drama and film scripts all have their roots in the image of human ancestors gathered around a fire in a cave, gossiping about their companions. The author connects this evolutionary significance to the cultural phenomenon of Hollywood's declining influence and the increasing global reach of Korean films and dramas. The rise of K-dramas may be due to their ability to effectively address important human characteristics that American popular culture, which dominates global entertainment, has missed by pursuing stable commercial success. Observing Hollywood's trajectory before the Hallyu wave, one can see that at some point, the diverse and subtle nuances of human relationships disappeared from American films. American cinema became a global cultural industry after World War II. As the film industry grew, Hollywood increasingly became large-scale and blockbuster-oriented. For more popularity and success, it focused on increasingly spectacular visuals, such as action and special effects, breathtaking scenes, and content based on similar, high-probability story structures. In this process, Hollywood films tended to move away from multifaceted reflections on human relationships, which were gained through the evolution of human altruism and became uniform. The history of humanity, which evolved through chatter and reputation, clearly explains the reasons for Hollywood's decline. Obsessed with scale and spectacle. Why do we live the way we do today? Evolution answers humanities and social science questions. The core concept of gene-culture coevolution theory is not complicated. Evolutionary theory explains the driving force behind all living things changing and evolving as a process called natural selection. In the process of adapting to or resisting harsh natural pressures, certain genetic variations in organisms are selected, while those that are not are eliminated, causing living things to constantly evolve. Most organisms' only way to respond to nature is to change their biological structure or function. However, humans uniquely form culture to respond to the natural environment. Humans are part of the natural environment, and at the same time, they live in the cultural environment they create. From early hominins moving in groups of dozens to starting agriculture, forming villages, and developing into megacities with tens of millions of inhabitants, humans have been exposed to more and more cultural environments than purely natural ones. Now culture, no less than natural selection pressure, also acts as a selection pressure that changes human genes. And humans whose genes have been altered by this cultural selection then further develop cultures that are more suited to their evolved genes, engaging in a mutual interaction. In short, it is the process by which humans create culture, and that culture, in turn, shapes humans. While the concept is clear, scientifically proving gene-culture coevolution theory and elucidating its causal relationship with various cultural phenomena is not easy. The theory itself requires extensive knowledge of almost all forms of our lives and the entirety of human civilization, and specific genetic changes must be clearly demonstrated at the molecular biological level. Culture Makes Gina's Dance in its first half begins by examining the interaction between culture and genes from contemporary socio-cultural realities we encounter daily, such as K-pop Chapter 1 and Korean food Chapter 2, and then expands to more universal topics like human sexual evolution, Chapter 4, family relationships, Chapter 5, and Communication Skills and Sociality, Chapter 6. In the latter half, it traces specific genetic changes, including how the agricultural revolution, a major upheaval in human life that occurred about 10,000 years ago, transformed modern human genes, Chapter 7, as well as diseases, Chapter 8, Pastoralism and Lactose Tolerance, Chapter 9, and cultural diversity and genetic changes in surrounding organisms caused by humans, Chapter 10. The book is built on a synthesis of achievements and wisdom from various disciplines, including animal ecology, evolutionary biology, history, anthropology, sociology, psychology, and cultural studies. The author's following statement reveals how the philosophy of the relationship between nature and human society connects with insights from evolutionary theory. Unlike other animals, humans create their own unique culture in response to a given natural environment. And the culture thus formed significantly influences human evolution, no less than the selection pressure exerted by nature. Suddenly, images of our ancestors from a very long time ago came to mind. To pioneer life on the Korean peninsula, where most of the land is mountainous and winter cold is severe, our ancestors must have needed collective labor, close mutual communication, community rules, and common stories. In the distant past, when means of communication were not as developed as they are now, dance and song played a significant part of these social functions. The bolded items in these two sentences are all human culture. And these cultures leave their traces on human genes. While there was no difference in chimpanzees and humans discovering tool use by chance, the genes of the two animals showed a significant difference in the subsequent process. Chimpanzee genes were more suited to adapting to nature rather than preserving and developing accidentally acquired culture. Chimpanzee genes chose to develop arm muscles and claws to climb trees faster rather than developing the ability to obtain food using leaves and stones. Another major background for the emergence of gene-culture coevolution theory is the development of molecular biology, which can provide concrete evidence of human evolution. With the remarkable development of molecular biology, vast amounts of gene or genome analysis have become possible, and information and knowledge about humans continue to accumulate. At its center is the Human Genome Project. The pace of genetic analysis technology development is astonishing. For example, about 20 years ago, analyzing one person's genome cost about 1 trillion won and took several years. But now, the cost has been reduced to around 1 million won and the analysis time to within 6 hours. Compared to chimpanzees, humans have remarkably small mouths, similar in size to a squirrel's, teeth that are too small to tear or chew raw meat, and lips and jaw muscles that are reduced in size and strength. Compared to carnivorous animals, humans also have less developed stomach muscles. And compared to primates of similar size, the colon, which makes up most of the large intestine, is also about 60% smaller. The colon helps herbivores efficiently break down fibrous foods. The small size of the human colon indicates that a diet rich in dietary fiber or raw food is not appropriate. On the other hand, the length of the human small intestine, which absorbs nutrients, has increased compared to related species. Thanks to this digestive organ structure, humans can absorb more nutrients from the same amount of food compared to other animals. All these facts indicate that the human body, especially the digestive system, has evolved to be suitable for processing food obtained through cooking with fire, rather than raw food. However, if someone were to ask me, as a biologist, to choose only one most important point for spreading Korean food more widely around the world, I would unhesitatingly choose the culture of enjoying food together. Not widely known representative dishes like kimchi, bibimbap, or bulgogi, nor traditional cooking methods like fermentation or salting, nor the excellent characteristics of Korean food such as nutritional balance or healthiness, but simply the culture of enjoying food together? In small groups, cooperation and goodwill were easily observed, and reciprocity worked directly enough. As humanity gradually became the dominant species of nature, the number of members in hunter-gatherer societies increased tenfold, then 100-fold, and with the start of agriculture, villages formed, and it has expanded exponentially to today's megacities, reaching up to tens of millions. Now, reciprocal altruism had to evolve from a direct form to an indirect reciprocity, expanding its sphere of influence. Dunbar also extended this inference to modern humans and ancestral hominins, concluding that the time spent on social interaction was up to 2 hours a day for early hominins and up to 5 hours a day for modern humans. For human ancestors, gossip was a means to confirm reality, convey news, and build consensus. For example, is that person weird, or am I stupid? That friend snuck away again when everyone went hunting yesterday. Maybe we should do something about them? And so on. As the film industry truly grew, Hollywood increasingly became large-scale and blockbuster-oriented. For more popularity and success, it focused on increasingly spectacular visuals, such as action and special effects, breathtaking scenes, and content based on similar, high-probability story structures. In this process, Hollywood films tended to move away from multifaceted reflections on human relationships, which were gained through the evolution of human altruism and became uniform. The history of humanity, which evolved through chatter and reputation, clearly explains the reasons for Hollywood's decline. Obsessed with scale and spectacle. This size-based selection occurred in relation to sexual pleasure. The shape of the glands is also similar. For human females, who can have sex repeatedly due to the absence of estrus, the pleasure of sexual intercourse was an important factor in addition to the purpose of reproduction. Naturally, women would have recognized that the size of the penis and the size or shape of the glands made a difference in sexual pleasure. As a result, female preference played an important role in determining the current size and shape of the human male glands. Sexual selection even changed the shape and form of the genitals. If sexual attraction were determined solely by whether it is advantageous for reproduction, the criteria would be simple. However, as we have seen, humans have evolved to be uniquely pleasure-seeking animals in terms of sex for both males and females. Beyond the sole natural element of reproduction, various subjective and cultural preferences play a role in feeling pleasure and enjoyment. These differences in preference give rise to the diversity of sexual attraction. A representative example of culture and genes temporarily conflicting and reversing evolutionary success is the culture of inbreeding. Not only the Ashkenazi Jews mentioned earlier, but also some European royalty until the early modern period practiced inbreeding under the pretext of preserving noble and pure bloodlines. Behind this, strong economic motives also played a role in protecting royal wealth by marrying close relatives. In any case, by deliberately ignoring human society's experience of limiting the dangers of inbreeding through socio-cultural mechanisms, they voluntarily left behind experimental records of human inbreeding for future scientists. The culture of agriculture created by humans led to the prosperity of humanity, but also to the proliferation of mosquitoes and the expansion of malaria. In response to malaria, the human body developed countermeasures, even transforming its genes. In other words, human-made culture acted as a selection pressure, leading to the emergence of variant genes. The time it takes for the proportion of lactose-tolerant Northern Europeans to increase from 10% to 90% is calculated to be 100 generations. Assuming one generation is 20 years, it can be calculated that about 2,000 years would pass for 90% of Northern Europeans to become lactose tolerant. This time is a very short period, only 1% of the evolution period of Homo sapiens, assuming Homo sapiens appeared 200,000 years ago. This has been SangSang Builder. Thank you.